share with brands 5 things that they should know about Gen Z in the time that it takes to eat 5 quesadillas. Basically, we got Michaela in the house. She is one of our panelists, our Gen Z panelists, that we interviewed when we were putting together our loyalty report. So if you haven't checked out the QSR loyalty report that Part and Some put out, I recommend you go and you download. You can still download it for free. But we put together this report after talking to Gen Z. We screen shared with folks like Michaela. I went through her Instagram. I went through her Amazon lists. We went through the DMs. We talked about all things brand. And we came away with a lot of insights about how Gen Z are approaching brands and loyalty. We thought it would be really fun to bring Michaela back on and have a little chit chat. So I asked Michaela, what does she like to eat? And you said quesadillas, which is great. So it's a lot better than trying to down 5 Dunkin' coffees or 5 donuts, which was my original thought, which I don't think is good for anybody. But 5 quesadillas we think might be doable, maybe. You wanted to keep it simple at Taco Bell because the options were kind of too many. Well, that's one of the things that comes up a lot is like better to simplify because right now we're just overwhelmed with choice.
Oh, 100%. Even just like at Taco Bell when they asked me, like I got overwhelmed about the jalapeno and I don't really like spice, but I was just like so freaked out because I hate when people like ask me a question or something and I'm so caught off guard. And my mom was like on the phone because I was telling her about it and she was like, "You don't like jalapeno." But I like freaked out and I was like, "Yeah, because there's so many options." Meanwhile, at Moe's, I could like pick out what I want and they'll just do it for me. And I love that. And it's so much easier because then I don't get freaked out and I know what I want and what I like and what I don't like. Being caught off guard is a lot.
I think I'm going faster than you.
Probably. This sauce is throwing me off. So I have to go move to my next one after this.
So, number 2 things you need to know about Gen Z. Gen Z inherit their loyalty. So, this is a different generation because this is not about like you see an ad and you discover a brand and then you start digging into it. This is very much about like how you were raised or your social circle. We just talked about how there's choice paralysis and you're overwhelmed with options. So the only way to really feel comfortable is in the brands that you grew up with, the brands that were passed down to you from family, the brands that you went to in high school with your friends. So how do you discover, or how did you first hear about Moe's, for example? How did you get into Moe's?
One time my friend was like, "Oh, you haven't had Moe's." And so she like just introduced, like we went there and we never stopped going there ever since. Every time like we would, especially in like in between college classes, she went to a college on one side, Moe's was here and I went here and we would just meet at Moe's and we would just like eat and hang out. And like they have such like good like portions and like I said, like options, and we both just like would try something new every time and like make things like fun. And just sitting there hanging out with each other, but also trying new things and stuff. And then I went back to Chipotle for a little bit and now I'm back obsessed with Moe's.
So you kind of touched on number 3 things you need to know about Gen Z, but habit. So something that came across loud and clear is like you get into these routines, whether it's you and your friend were always at Moe's because it was halfway between your colleges. And so then that convenience became a habit in a way. And then it's really hard to break those habits once they've been formed. So are there brands that you feel like you kind of can't live without, and why?
Oh, Chick-fil-A, I would die without. Like, Chick-fil-A is my go-to. Starbucks and Dunkin' are right by my office at work. In the winter, I love Starbucks hot coffee, but in the summer, I love Dunkin's iced coffee. And I mean, I love iced coffee year round, but then Starbucks offered their oat milk brown sugar, and
Mm.
I've been obsessed with that ever since.
Wait, so you said like you get something once or twice and then you're hooked?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to understand at what point does that habit get formed? Like is two enough?
Once I go there like once or twice, I'm using the app and I'm getting like the points. So then I'm like, oh, I might as well just keep going until I get a free coffee or I'll get something. But then Dunkin' came out with this like free coffee Fridays or something. Like you get like a discounted thing on Fridays. So I've been going there. I switch back and forth right now.
Would you
Dude,
put ranch on a quesadilla?
absolutely.
Another thing that we talked about a lot is personalization, like how Gen Z, I feel like, is different because customizing things, personalizing things to you feels like it's not a luxury, it's an expectation. Like everything needs to be kind of your way, your approach. Like you talked about Moe's, and you get your own version of what that looks like, and you customize it and you personalize it to you. Another thing that it shows up, it's like your feed. Your feed is very much about you and what you like.
Oh my God, yeah.
I remember when we were talking before, I think we were scrolling through Instagram or maybe it was TikTok, and there was an ad that came up that was like super weird and not you. And you're like, what is that doing here? Like, it didn't even make sense to
Mm-hmm.
show up in your algorithm. Like, it's not beyond just a custom meal. You just want the brand to really understand you and speak to you.
It is like great, the personalization aspect, but at the same time, um, when it is like they're listening to me, kind of gets creepy. But I do like it because then I'll like actually deep dive into like, okay, what else do they offer that like I could potentially really like be into or like. It's not necessarily an expectation. Um, it's just what makes sense for me. Like I'm going to a wedding this weekend and I'm looking on Amazon and it's a bunch of recommendations for like shoes and stuff and that really makes sense to me right now. I can see expectations to some senses because I do feel like brands really need to be in touch with the audience and a lot of them aren't.
Yeah, you bring up such a good point because I think it's not only do you want the brand to understand you, Michaela, but also listen. So it's a
Yeah.
two-way street. It's like it's not just about giving your audience exactly what they're looking for so that they know that you get them. It's also about listening when there's a problem and making sure that they feel heard.
There's a difference between listening and being understood. I 100% agree with that. But at the same time, as a big brand or big company, it is a lot harder to understand that. At least coming from someone, of my generation, because we do see the change in, the economics and stuff of it. And and it affects us because we're the younger generation. So it's more so just like if you're not giving me what I want, I'll just go somewhere else and I'll give them my money or I'll go where I'm comfortable when I know what I like and they give me what I like. Because I got a Diet Coke from McDonald's the other day. I love Diet Coke. That is like a creature of my habit. If you want to talk about
Wait, but
habit,
why
I'm
don't you get
obsessed with
Diet
it.
Coke from the store? You get or the bodega. You get it from McDonald's.
McDonald's soda has something in it. I don't know what it is. It is so good. Absolutely insane. Especially if I'm like after a weekend night out, I have to go get a McDonald's drink.
That's just a taste of what's in our Gen Z report. If you have questions or you want to know more, you can reach out to Pardon Some. Um, but this was a little deep dive into the world of Gen Z and 5 things you need to know with our special guest, Michaela. Thank you. If anybody has questions or wants to know more, you can dive into our report. You can download it for free. The link is below. You can also reach out to us at hello@pardonsome.com and we'd be happy to answer any questions. Okay, see y'all next time. Oh my God, I need a Diet Coke now. I need to order that Diet Coke from McDonald's. That was a lot of quesadilla.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm struggling.